How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Got a lot to get into here today. It's Tuesday. I'm sure everybody knows what that means. Raw thoughts from last night. What did you think of the show? Apparently, I'm in the minority. I thought it was a pretty decent show. It was bizarre. There was some stuff on it I absolutely would not have done. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. They got an audience that's going to accept a lot of stuff. And comparisons to World Championship Wrestling, I mean, come on. I watch World Championship Wrestling every single week. Nothing is as bad as the worst of World Championship Wrestling. But you're welcome to not like whatever you didn't like whatever you did like. Your comments today, 844-411-5411. That is toll-free. 844-411-5411. Text messages, 425-780-7566. We'll take your phone calls, emails, text messages after the break. Bryan at WrestlingObserver.com is the email. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Alvarez. First off, unfortunately, bad news today. Christopher Pallies, best known as King Kong Bundy, passed away at the age of 61. No further details are currently known. The career of Bundy started in 1981. Wrestled under the name Chris Kanyon, the original Chris Kanyon, later relocated to Texas, where he soon adopted the moniker King Kong Bundy, facing Fritz von Erich in his retirement match at Texas Stadium in 1982. Later went to Mid-South Wrestling, adopting a gimmick where he would demand a 5 count instead of the normal 3 when pinning his opponent. Idea came up with by Jim Ross. Joined WWE 85, given a monster push upon arrival, the classic, ugly, bald-headed monster heel. He fought Hulk Hogan for the WWE title, main event of WrestleMania 2. WrestleMania main eventer, teamed with Big John Studd. Had another program with Hogan before leaving the company 1988. One last run in 1994 with WWF in the $1 Million Corporation. Left the following year, largely worked independence until 2007. Had roles in Married with Children, the brother of Peggy Bundy, also the 1988 Richard Pryor film Moving, where he played an ex-con. We could talk about Bundy today, Raw, Asuka, so much more, and we will kick it off after the break. Wrestling Observer Live. Alrighty, well, we're back on the show, everybody. Wrestling Observer Live here. Bryan Alvarez, Mike Sempervive, a lot to talk about. I can only imagine what everyone's going to be contacting us about today. Got news, the death of King Kong Bundy, which I got to thinking about it last night. I can't figure out why King Kong Bundy never went in the WWE Hall of Fame. Think about all the guys that went in there that didn't get along with Vince McMahon and had actual serious real-life problems with Vince. And King Kong Bundy never went in there. He was a big star. I mean, if you watch wrestling in the 80s, you absolutely know who King Kong Bundy is. And he was a giant monster heel, very recognizable. He did stuff outside of wrestling. He main evented a WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan. It's the WWE Hall of Fame, but he should be in there. So, I don't know. It's weird. Any thoughts on King Kong Bundy, Mike?
You know, I heard you and Dave kind of bring that up last night, too. I don't know if it's not because he never really needed them. And I don't know if he was ever asked or not. He would hint at it and joke about it in tweets and things like that. Kind of in the build-up usually to WrestleMania. They'd tease about going in the Hall of Fame, and then it would be announced he wouldn't, and people would get all upset about it for obvious reasons, for the reasons that you said. It's the WWF Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Fame. Why wouldn't he be in there? But he was one of the first guys to walk away from Vince and not need Vince and go with his name and got a Tandy computer, a Head Start computer ad. He had roles in Moving and in Married with Children and these other things where he used his name, and it wasn't WWE and it wasn't WWF that he was kicking back to and giving residuals back to or percentage or any of that stuff. He was out doing his thing, and that's one of the reasons I've always been a really big fan of King Kong Bundy after meeting him and things like that, because you couldn't go to a Northeast, if you grew up in the 90s, you couldn't go to a Northeast independent show and not have Bundy around there at some point, either wrestling or doing an autograph signing or something like that. He was just one of those ex-WWF guys that I assume always did really well and drew crowds on the indie scene because he always seemed to be everywhere. And he did the same thing in Maryland, throughout Maryland, when I was there, either working for Axel Rotten or Corporal Punishment or whoever it was at the time that was running a show. He was there, and the fact that he was able to hit it hard at such a young age, great look. When he changed in World Class, they shaved the head, gave him the singlet, and he became King Kong Bundy instead of just Big Daddy Bundy, the fun country Von Erich guy. You know, it was to the moon with him after that changeover in look. And from there, he did his thing. He got out. He did his thing outside of the business. He always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. He would do these comedy shows and things like that. He was awesome. They tried to bring him back for a little while in the early 90s, the nostalgia thing there. It didn't work out. He was gone again, but I was always impressed with the fact that he, loved being around wrestling all the time, but he did his thing and got out of it and wasn't beholden upon anybody else.
Here we go. Last night, this person says, showed it should have been a singles match. If Becky beats Charlotte, as she regularly has since Hell in a Cell at Fastlane, and then Charlotte takes the fall at WrestleMania instead of Ronda, that's still not what the fans are chasing. Becky beating Ronda is the thing people want. Can they make this at least a three-way elimination match since they are hell-bent at getting away from what folks really want? Well, I'm glad that everyone knows what everybody wants as opposed to what they personally want. We have very little indication that what the fans want is a singles match. They've chanted for a three-way. They have cheered Charlotte at the house shows. Yes, we have a very angry, passionate group of fans that are furious that this is a three-way. But we have very little evidence that the overall Raw and SmackDown audience cares whether it is a three-way or singles match. Now, as far as Ronda Rousey getting beaten goes, I don't know what they're going to do. I've been wrong before, okay? But I see two possible scenarios happening here, okay? One of them is that, yes, Becky beats Charlotte to win the title at WrestleMania, and then they do Ronda versus Becky in a singles match at the pay-per-view following WrestleMania, and Becky beats Ronda in a singles, okay? Dave last night says right now, that's not going to happen. We'll have to wait and see. I know that was an idea that they had. Now, if that's not happening, if Ronda Rousey is really leaving after WrestleMania, I'd bet you anything that Becky is going to beat Charlotte at Fastlane, and then Becky is going to beat Ronda at WrestleMania. Ronda is not leaving without putting one of these girls over. Yeah, they could put Charlotte over Ronda. I don't expect that to happen, but they could. They're going to put Charlotte over Ronda, or they're going to put Becky over Ronda. Ronda is putting one of these girls over, and it's likely going to be Becky Lynch. It's either going to happen at WrestleMania, or if she agrees to stick around an extra month, it'll happen in a singles match the month after WrestleMania. All of these scenarios have been discussed, okay? But the idea that Ronda is going to leave and not put somebody over after all of this, it's not going to happen. Everybody is very upset about this. Are you upset about this, Mike, this whole scenario?
No, I'm not, because I could justify why, for legacy purposes, for a lot of reasons, why a three-way was okay. Now, it would have been fine with the one-on-one, but I was okay with the three-way. How they are going about this, I think when you include Stephanie McMahon, it is overdone, but that's what WWE does. But I will also say, because of how we talk about this show and how we've talked about this show for a long, long time, and that company for a long, long time, it does not surprise me that people have no faith and they are expecting the worst. I think that's a sign that, that's something that they need to tackle. Of this is what your fan base thinks about you and believes that that's how you view them, that they're just going to get screwed. That's a terrible way for it to be. But with that said, the fact that people are going this ape crazy nuts over it, I think is I think I don't know. You seem to get a lot more of the heat, and you and Dave get slammed on this a lot worse than me, so I'll just sidestep it and let you deal with it because I know you're tired of being yelled at.
I don't care. They can yell, but this person here says, plenty of evidence. This is his evidence. Polls on WWE's Twitter and PW Torch. Listen, our board is furious about this. This is not the overall WWE audience. I don't know how many times I have to tell people.
Well,
ignore the social media. It doesn't mean anything.
They did have a generic poll up on their site that I talked about on Sunday when they gave the options. What do you want to see? A triple threat? Or should it be Charlotte versus Ronda? Or should it be Becky versus Ronda? And by leaps and bounds, I looked twice. It was like 84% and 77% that they wanted to be one-on-one between Becky and with Ronda.
Well, what people don't understand is, number one, if you're talking about the Torch or the Observer site or PW Insider, you're talking about the absolute hardest of the hardcore. This is not the overall WWE audience. And if you're talking about the WWE's Twitter or WWE.com, the whole storyline is that you're supposed to want it to be a singles match. That's the story. The storyline is that Charlotte is not supposed to be in there, and she was added unfairly, and that Becky has been screwed. That's the storyline. So the poll result should be that fans don't want Charlotte in there. That's the whole point. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I can't think of... I'm trying to think of any storyline in all of the years I've been watching wrestling that I've ever been as mad as people appear to be mad about this storyline. I can't think of one. It's beginning to be comedy at this point. I mean, here's the end of this. This is the bottom line for everybody that's mad at me, okay? I would have been fine with one-on-one. But whether it's one-on-one or whether it's a three-way, they were going to ruin the storyline for you. Do you understand, everybody? Okay? But this is just the reality. This is WWE. You would have been furious if Charlotte had never been involved with this, with what they would have done to this, okay? And at the end of the day, of the three, and this is going to get me heat, Charlotte is the best worker, and it will be a better match with her in it. That's why I'm fine with a three-way. Back in a moment for more heat. Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. Hey, Mike. It's Edward from California. Speaking of heat, Brian, I have a question for you about faces and heels.
Oh, God.
And this is
good luck.
It's based off. It's based off, my years of watching. Brian, you've been in the business a long time. In your experience, did you ever find that it was in any way trickier or harder for baby faces to get over, either organically or otherwise? And in your opinion, why do fans seemingly tend to gravitate more towards the heels?
What do you mean gravitate more towards them?
It always seems to me, not just WWE, but just watching other wrestling promotions and going to other wrestling shows, it always seems to me that the heels usually are able to somehow just get the crowd more behind them. It seems that way to me anyway.
Well, you got a very, very complicated question, which I'll be happy to answer, so we don't have to talk about Becky and Charlotte and Ronda. So, it depends. I don't even know where to start.
Well,
so
first
listen,
of all,
nobody knows. I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people have no idea how to be a heel. Okay? If you watched the Saturday Night Live geeks last night, like, the one geek got a lot of heat, but it wasn't because he knew how to be a heel. It was because he knew to put on a New York hat, and it's just cheap heat. Everybody boos, they get mad at the guy. Okay? That's cheap heat. That's not being a good heel. Like, any moron can go out in front of a crowd and make fun of the local sports team and call people fat and call people ugly and have people boo them. That's not being a heel, okay?
That's what you do.
Get out of here. So in order to have baby faces and heels, they've got to work off of each other, okay? Like, you can't be a great baby face if you're not facing somebody who understands how to be a great heel and vice versa. Being a baby face is very, very hard, okay? It is, in fact, harder than being a heel. And if you're out there trying to be a babyface and the heel on the other side is trying to be cool, or the NWO was a prime example of the old school cool heels. You had a bunch of they were supposed to be the bad guys, but they always outsmarted the babyfaces. The babyfaces were given no credibility. They were always made to look stupid. Of course the fans are going to root for the heels. If you have a heel that understands that his role or her role is to be an unlikable person, okay? Unlikable. And their goal is to get the babyface over as a heroic fighter. Then you can do this. A great person, Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho understands the point of being a heel. Chris Jericho, when he was a heel, he didn't want merchandise. He didn't want people out there buying his stuff. The whole idea was, I'm supposed to be unlikable. If there's something that I do that's going to get the fans cheering or that they like, I'm not going to do it. Now, this wasn't his entire career. I mean, obviously, for a while there, he was doing the list, and he managed to get the list over, and people saw the list as a babyface thing. But when he was at his peak as a heel, there was none of that stuff. That's what a heel is supposed to be. The oldest of the old school, King Kong Bundy, the whole idea was he was a big, ugly guy. God bless the guy. I mean, he wouldn't even be angry about this because that was his job. His job was to be out there and be big and fat and mean and bald and ugly. And go in there and not show up Hulk Hogan, not make Hulk Hogan look stupid. Hulk Hogan, he would do some dastardly thing. He would attack the guy from behind. Hulk Hogan would be a hero, and he would vanquish King Kong Bundy. That's the kind of thing that worked. That's a babyface and a heel. This line is blurred nowadays. The heels are out there. They're doing all this fancy high flying. They're doing all these flips. They're doing this and that. And fans, they will get behind things like that. I'm not trying to be the old guy that just says, hey, like there are plenty of good heels out there, okay? But there are also plenty of bad heels. And there are plenty of good baby faces out there. There are also a lot of horrible baby faces. And if you want to make this work, you can make it work. But it's hard. It's not easy. It's not just out there. I was laughing uproariously when I was watching that Triple Cage of Doom on the Great American Bash 1988. And the whole idea is you're not supposed to know if Precious is going to give the key to her husband, Jimmy Garvin, or Kevin Sullivan. Okay? The announcers flat out on commentary say, she's not wearing white. She's wearing black. I almost cried with laughter. Like, that's what it used to be. The babyface wore white. The heel wore black. There was no stupid shades of gray. Like, nothing that Kevin Sullivan did in that storyline was designed to make you like the guy. He was a dislikable, disgusting character from beginning to end. I could go on for hours about this. I hated having to be a babyface because I sucked at it. I didn't know what to do. It was not me to go out there and like look at the people and hey everybody, clap my hands. Yeah, let's go. Okay, I can't do it. I suck at it. I'm a terrible babyface. But you know what? Buddy Wayne was a great heel. And Buddy didn't go out there and try and steal my thunder and do all the cool moves and the flips and everything like that. His role was to be the mean-looking, gritty, lay down on the mat and hold me down, make me fight to get up. And you know what? Those matches, I hated being a babyface and I sucked at it. But at the end of the match, the fans would be cheering me for my comeback. They would be cheering when I went up for the finish. They would be cheering when I got the pin. I didn't even know how. He was a great heel. That's the end of the story. There's no way I should have ever been cheered against Buddy Wayne, but I always was. Because he understood that he needed to be an unlikable, despicable character in order to make this match work. And that's what he was. I don't know what more you want me to say.
I was cheering Buddy.
Thank you. I was too.
Hey, I don't know if you've talked about this. Probably not. You know, there were a bunch of other Tower of Dooms that summer, and I had a chance to go to one at the Capitol Center down in D.C. or closer to D.C., So this is the one I got. Like, you got the one that had the storyline, but I guess they had this cage, so they were going to use it, So they had one, and I always put Nikita Koloff in this match over Lex Luger, but it was Lex Luger. Listen to this lineup, folks. The Road Warriors, Paul Ellering, Sting, and Dusty Rhodes. And let me tell you something. Watching Dusty Rhodes climb that ladder to the top was something else. Against Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Barry Windham, Kevin Sullivan, and J.J. Dillon. It was awesome. Probably a little bit better than the Tower of Doom one you saw.
God, I'd hope so. And actually, the Tower of Doom was terrible, but the story was great, and the last 5 minutes were great. It was just the first, God only knows how much, it was absolutely terrible. And then our review of this went up on our YouTube page, and some fellow was all upset that we were looking at this through 2019 eyes, and he's talking about how the fans at the time thought it was great. And I was
they
like,
didn't.
Dude, I read The Observer from that era. It sucked. They thought it sucked too. What are you talking about?
I mean, we were forgiving and we liked everybody involved and all of that sort of stuff. I can say that in generalities as wrestling fans, but the story was goofy even for then. It was ridiculous, and there was a lot of ridiculous stuff that happened then. So, not so much there, but and that was a world-class idea that they had taken too. That was even more amazing, was the fact that I forget what they called it, the Triple Tower of Terror or whatever it was in World Class, but different times.
I just want to say this as well. This person here, I don't care if it's a 5-star match at Mania, Bryan. I just want it to be a great story that's not complicated. Listen, everyone, I feel for you. Even though I yell at everybody and I don't understand the fury and I argue against what a lot of people want here in this match to listen to this show. But listen, okay? There's no... Do you understand what we're watching here? Yes, Ronda and Becky had a great face-off at the end of January. And I've had people go, if they just would have done that and done no other angles and just re-aired that all the way to WrestleMania, it would have been awesome. You're 1,000% right. I'm not arguing that, okay? But I'm looking at the reality. In no universe, if there are infinite universes, there's still not one where that's what WWE was going to do. They were going to write a storyline every single week for Ronda and Becky for 3 straight months, okay? Everybody talking about, the McMahons just hadn't been involved. Okay, step away from whatever you're smoking, all right? The McMahons came back to TV in late November, early December. There's zero chance that they were going to do a Ronda versus Becky one-on-one feud, and the McMahons weren't going to be involved. Like, am I out to lunch here? There's just, it's impossible. What people want out of this storyline. You know what, everybody? What you want out of this storyline is what I want, okay? But I'm looking at this as a realist. It was never going to happen. They were never going to not be able to screw this up. And you all know this deep down. But because you don't want Charlotte in there, you are using that as a way to convince yourself that you're right, and if she hadn't been in there, this would have been great and it would have been better. The reality is, you would have almost assuredly hated it exactly as much as you hate it right now. And you would be screaming that they should have just kept it simple. They didn't need to get Vince involved. They didn't need to get Stephanie involved. They didn't need to do this twist and this turn. But they were going to do that, everybody. Right? Can anyone convince me otherwise? Is there any history that proves that they would not have overbooked a singles program between the two? Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Had people on the phone, but they hung up. So I don't know what that's all about. If you want to give us a call, 844-411-5411. 844-411-5411. Text messages, 425-780-7566. Sometimes the phones, they just don't work, Definitely not cowards. Yeah. Bert says, I think it's possible Mandy actually beats Asuka at Fastlane to then have Sonya turn on Mandy and do Mandy versus Sonya at Mania.
Oh, God.
Seems too quick for that.
Way too quick for that. And they've hinted at that in the past before. I just think that is so incredibly stupid and short-sighted on several levels, to be honest with you. And let me tell you, too, I was a big fan of getting that title belt, and I think it would have helped the whole three-way situation if you would have gotten that title belt into this three-way match, but it doesn't look like they're going to do that, even though there would still be time to, even after Fastlane in the next month leading into WrestleMania, but I wonder if they're going to use this as the opportunity because I assume Becky is coming out of WrestleMania the winner and will come out of this with the Raw Women's Championship, that's how they do the shakeup, is she just waltzes over to Raw with that belt, and whoever the SmackDown champion is, that gets swapped around too, and somehow a Raw person ends up with that title.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, I was just finally glad not to see Elias be a jobber last night. I remember a couple weeks ago when he had an NXT call-up. I just could not believe, of all the people you have do a job, their NXT call-up, I couldn't believe it.
As far as him beating EC3?
Well, no, last night, he didn't beat EC3. He lost to, I want to say, Aleister Black a couple weeks ago when they had the NXT call-ups that no one cared about.
Yeah.
I guess you forgot. It's no big deal. But I'm just glad he wasn't treated like an afterthought last night.
I see what you're getting at.
Well, here's the thing. I know he wasn't an afterthought last night, I guess, but I mean, when it comes to his WrestleMania situation, somebody noted this online, and I could believe it. It seems like he's being set up to face the Philadelphia Flyers mascot Gritty. How would you feel about that?
This person says, now that WWE officially announced Tori's inclusion in the Hall of Fame last night, when can we expect the likes of Virgil? I mean, the day will come.
Not soon enough.
Are we still talking about who does and does not deserve to be in this deal?
I don't know. Now I'm visualizing Virgil at a lot of these WWE events, and I am... Can Virgil go in every year? Is that possible? Actually, I think I'd like to see that and see a WWE Network documentary each time about it.
This person says, is Lashley and Ambrose a work? What does that mean? Are they feuding? Are you talking about individual situations? Ambrose, apparently as of yesterday, is still leaving. I had heard over the weekend there were rumors that he was staying. So I guess we'll find out. There's still time. They can change his mind between now and when his contract is up in April, but looking like he's still leaving. And as far as Lashley, what's the Lashley situation? Somebody email me. Let me know if I've missed something on social media. This person says, I agree. People are too upset about the Becky storyline. WWE is making it as convoluted as they make every other storyline. But I think the hardcore fans are more upset because the wrestlers are females. I've seen plenty of guys be more invested in what happens to the female wrestlers they like.
That's not true.
Well, hold on, Mike. Not everybody. But yes, there is a subset that because this involves Becky, there's great fury.
Well, because it's Becky more than women. That's what I mean. Yeah, I mean because of who it is and the type of support she has and all that sort of stuff. Yes, I can see why that those people are super upset.
Spurs says, what was up with that Triple H promo? I thought they were against ever saying on TV that they were just characters. It was a very forced fake shoot.
That was a horrible night for that last night. That is something that just drives me nuts. Is just I know what it is. Stop telling me all of that other stuff is always fake, and now we're on to the real stuff. They did it over and over again last night, and the right people did it in that it was like Ronda Rousey and Triple H and all that. But Jesus, it's too much. They do it so much. When it's one thing to go, I'm putting sports aside. I'm putting the pay aside. I'm putting whatever aside, and I'm going to kick your ass. Like, there was a time for that in pro wrestling. Now it's, well, all of this show we're putting on, just ignore all of that. Now I'm serious here because you're calling me Paul, and I'm calling you Dave. Just, man, it's too much.
I mean, Batista's real name is Dave. And Hunter never said Paul.
I know that, but that's what they hinted at. I knew you were going to say that, but you know exactly what I mean.
I know
you know exactly what I mean.
I know, but I didn't hate it as much as everybody else. I didn't think they went to... There were a couple of things in there that I wouldn't have done. Because mentioning burying Reed, that was stupid.
That was stupid.
They never should have mentioned that. And there was another line in there that I wouldn't have used, but overall I thought he cut a hell of a promo. I mean...
But it works for him because he has credibility, and because of who he is and how they maintain his angles and who he is, he's able to maintain that credibility. The problem is they do this too often with too many other people who can't cut promos like him, who don't have the presence that he does, and that's one of the reasons that, again, nothing matters on that show sometimes.
I thought, as far as blurring the lines, that the Ronda Rousey stuff at the end was far more flagrant than this. I mean, they tried to convince you that she's shooting on people.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, everybody.
If that's the case, why is Becky alive?
This is why it's different than WCW, everybody, okay? They never flat out said that she was shooting. They never flat out said that it was fake, okay? Even Dave hated this, okay? And I'm not even going to really defend it, but I'm going to point out why it's not as bad as I think that he thinks it is. When the idiot SNL guy backstage says, "Is this stuff even real?" All right? Okay? Like, Braun picked him up by the neck to kill him. The storyline is that it is real, and this moron thinks it's fake, and the wrestler proved otherwise. That's very different than when in WCW, where the announcers flat out said, Sid was supposed to win, but he's doing the right thing, and he's... that was completely stupid.
Yes.
That was the announcers flat out... The announcers were telling you that it was fake. This was an idiot from Hollywood asking if it's fake, and the wrestler proving it's real. Would I have done this? No, but it is different.
He didn't prove it was real. He didn't prove it was real, because when Colin Joe said that, and then Braun picked him up, and in theory was choking him up against the wall off his feet for 4 minutes through a commercial, and then he just puts him down and he goes, "Hey man, what's up with that?" and walks away, and then he's speaking very clearly. He's not even selling it like a heel and selling it like he should be and selling it like he would have if they would have done this, and they would not have done this in most places back in the day, but the ones that would at least be selling it so you would think this dude is real. This is a man who commits vehicular homicide. He could choke this Colin Jost guy, but no. And so that didn't even come across as quote-unquote real. It didn't.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's up?
Hey, boys. What's up? It's Savon from Jersey. How are you?
What's up?
So
hey, Savon, I just wanted this to be said right here. Wait, I like Michael Che and Colin Jost, just not having to be hosts here. I just want to let you're the one who's calling them geeks, in case they want to call somebody out on Weekend Update.
They can call me out on Update. I mean, listen, the ironic thing is I think that it's Michael Che that's the actual huge fan of wrestling.
Yes, he is.
So, like, he's the one that should have been in the situation to interact with the wrestlers, because he probably would have done a decent job with it. Instead, the other idiot, who doesn't care about wrestling at all, they put him in this situation. He doesn't know how to sell.
No, ain't nobody
know
but
anything.
Michael Che.
Come on. All right, what were you saying, Savon?
Well, I was just going to say, if it's any indication of what Mania they're going to host, oh, my God. If we're going to get backstage angles with these guys,
yeah.
Good Lord.
I can't wait.
Yeah, exactly. With that being said, I have one thing to say, and I'm sure it's going to make Becky fans a little more angry, and I'm going to ask you guys flat out. Any chance we get Stephanie as a special guest referee?
Oh, no, Savon, I refuse. Come on. No.
Well, I'm just saying she's had such a big role, quote unquote, role in this, and it's all about the McMahons all the time. They're the ones that got to get over. And I was just kind of thinking, I'm like, you know what? Watch them put Stephanie in as a special ref in this.
I don't think that's going to happen, Savon. I've been wrong before. I pray I'm not wrong this time. All right, thanks so much for the call, buddy. That'd be a horrible idea. And a storyline apparently filled with horrible ideas. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's up?
Hey, Bryan, man. What's up today, dude?
I don't know. You tell me.
Oh, I'm just going to ask you, did I hear Dave right last night? They're going to have Roman Reigns versus Baron Corbin at WrestleMania this year?
He said that's an idea. Sounds like a bad one.
Yeah, that's a horrible idea, dude. I mean, they're going to kill him dead.
I mean,
How about 15 seconds? That's what I'd like. If he came out there and the crowd goes nuts, because we'll finally have a WrestleMania where the crowd will be going nuts for Roman Reigns against Baron Corbin. At least we'd have that. If he were just to come out there and just beat Baron Corbin in 30 seconds and just beat the dog out of him and hit all of his moves 29 times before leaving, I think that would actually work out just fine. I don't think they'll do that, but if you actually went in that direction, I think everybody would be a winner that way.
You know, it is true that you're guaranteed Roman Reigns' babyface reaction at Mania if he goes in there against Corbin. To me, that's not enough to do that match. I mean, you're telling me that Roman wouldn't get cheered against Bobby Lashley?
Oh, get cheered against anybody.
I'm pretty sure he'd be cheered against
Is it about
Lashley.
the match or the moment on a show where you haven't had that much time to lead into it? And again, you put him in there with Bobby Lashley for a 10-minute match. I'm not saying people are going to be sitting on their hands the entire time or anything like that, but it's not like they don't have dynamic opponents. The only dynamic opponent, one of the few that he has, is like Drew McIntyre, and that's something I'd like to see be built up over far more time.
Well, here's the problem with your theory, Mike. Your theory is correct if the idea is Roman Reigns beats Baron Corbin in a minute. But my guess is they'll probably go 12 minutes.
Yeah, but
so
even
of the
then,
two, I'd prefer Lashley.
I guess so, but even then, I mean, I would still like to see more, more meat behind the story. And granted, they would still have a month to do something like that, and you have Leo Rush around there too. So yeah, you could easily build it up. I don't think a 12-minute match with Bobby Lashley I don't think it even matters. I just don't think you're accentuating any positives that way. And again,
you sure aren't with
stars
Corbin
for him. Say again?
You sure aren't with Corbin.
Well,
I mean, is there literally, can anyone come up with one feud with Corbin where Corbin made it better? I can't think of one. At least Bobby Lashley's in there, and Leo Rush can do a high spot and get speared out of midair, and like there's something you can do with Lashley. You can't do a thing with Corbin. He's going to lay on the mat for 10 minutes in a headlock like he does in every single one of his matches. I don't want to see it.
What was his name? Bull James? Who had the undefeated streak for a while, and Baron Corbin killed him in NXT?
Bo James?
Was that
Bull?
No, not Bo James.
What the hell's his name?
Dempsey.
Bull Dempsey.
Is that yeah? Did Baron make that one better?
No, I can't think of one.
Sorry, Baron.
This person says if Ambrose is actually leaving after Mania, I remember in NXT when the Corbin thing was like, okay, he's going to beat everybody in less than a minute, so like the fans are going to count, and so they did that for a while. It started to work, and the fans started to count. But then they decided it's got to go longer than a minute. And so the fans would count, and then they get sick of counting. They start booing the guy. It's like, dude, can they do anything right with this guy? This person says, if Ambrose is actually leaving after Mania, I'd much rather see Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose. You don't even have to turn him. Just have Roman ask Dean for one last big match before he leaves, which they have now acknowledged on TV.
Why would you even put Dean Ambrose on the card if he's leaving after Mania?
To try and make him happy so he doesn't leave. Oh. That's our wacky idea. Alrighty, back in a moment with more Observer Live. Well, my friends, I'm a fair man, and I asked, name one program that was made better by the inclusion of Baron Corbin. And in fact, this person here notes, he did make Breaking Ground better, the behind-the-scenes show. Absolutely right. You are absolutely right. I will give you that.
Never saw it, so it doesn't count for me.
That show was better because of Baron Corbin. And I mentioned this a long time ago. In that show, Baron Corbin came off as a very, very compelling character. Hanging around, watching him backstage, he legit is a lone wolf. This is nothing like what we see on television. And it's one of those deals I've talked about a million times. There are certain things that, if you're there, they're very, very meaningful for you if you work in WWE, but it doesn't translate to the audience watching at home. And this is one of those things, Baron Corbin. I just presume that backstage he must be just as compelling as he was on Breaking Ground, and so they think that he's really got something, but they put him on TV and it just never comes through. He's just a tall dude with a lot of chin locks in his repertoire. God, I hate chin locks. Have you ever mentioned that?
Good first step quickness, though. You know,
he does?
Pretty good athlete there, a former NFL player. But I think sometimes too, it's they want to create personalities for people instead of letting those people's personalities shine through and amplifying their positives. Why is he still dressed in clothes wrestling? I mean, just so much of what they do just makes you scratch your head.
We're out of time, everybody. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific 3 Eastern, Sundays 3 Pacific 6 Eastern. Back tomorrow with more. Got plenty coming up. WrestlingObserver.com, the very popular Retro, Raw, and Nitro show 19 years ago this week, coming up tonight. Myself, Vinny, and Craig. Observer Radio last night. Observer Radio tomorrow. Lots of great stuff. And a special treat on the Filthy Tom show coming up Wednesday as well, so you can look forward to that. Out of time, everybody. Talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.